But this is what's wrong with all the black people.
Wow.
And
I can see it.
It had
now.
nothing to do with racism. It had
it.
nothing to do with systemic or slavery or any of that stuff.
Okay.
It starts in the home. They hate their mothers. And they must be born again. They must return to the fathers.
Okay.
The boys and the girls, the men and the women.
Yeah.
It ain't about racism at all.
Nothing to do with slavery.
Nothing to do with slavery. Zero.
Yeah.
The slaves are all dead anyway.
Yeah.
True.
With my generation, I'm 74, right? In my generation, we didn't have no problem with slavery and stuff like that. They didn't sit around and preach about slavery. They taught us to work, to respect ourselves and others, to be an individual, take care of yourself. They didn't say, oh, y'all can't make it because of slavery.
Yeah.
We can't make it because of slavery. That wasn't even in my mind because it wasn't in their mind.
Right.
And my great-grandfather was, my great-grandfather ran the plantation that I grew up on at one time. And another black guy was fired from a plantation, and he came over, according to the stories that my grandparents told me and everybody. He came over and asked my great-grandfather for a job, and he gave it to him. And then those white people from that plantation said, no, you can't hire him, don't hire him. My grandfather said, no, you can't tell me what to do. My great-grandfather. Yeah. And they came one night for him, and he had his gun under the bed, so he ran them away. And then they came back another time, but my great-grandmother had removed the gun from the bed, and they were able to kill him. And then they asked, well, why did you move the gun? She's like, I didn't want him to get in trouble. I didn't want him to do anything wrong. She got the man killed.
Yeah, that's deep now. Hey, that's deep.
Wow.
And yet we weren't taught to hate. They knew it was spiritual battle. That was evil.
Wow.
They didn't say that was racism. They didn't blame it on slavery. They said those are evil people that did that. And they taught us to treat all people, even our enemies, don't hate our enemies. And it doesn't mean you agree with something that's wrong, you just don't hate, because people are driven by evil, they can't help it.
Right.
Until they're born again.
Okay.
What made you shift from when you, because I know when I was looking at some of the backstory, when you used to be on the Democratic side and you were going for like Jesse Jackson.
I came out here and listened to that mess. When I moved to LA at 18, I was young. And I thinking that Jesse Jackson, those guys were grown men that was telling the truth and leading, Louis Farrakhan and all them. And I believed in it. And once you believe in lies, it's hard to believe the truth again.
Right.
Now that's
right.
But that's solid.
Right.
And it wasn't until I realized, you know, my life got worse. It hadn't gotten better. And I asked God to let me see what was wrong with me. Because I was going to churches, I was praying, reading the Bible, and all that crap. And not crap, but
I was about to say, wait a minute.
It wasn't helping.
I got you. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, this ain't the Scientology business.
No, but it wasn't until I asked God to let me see myself, because I'm a volunteering in the church, giving tithing and offering and all that. But I wasn't getting better. I still had this fear, I had anger, I had insecurity. Whenever I dealt with a woman, I was afraid to speak up to her and deal with her the way she needed to be dealt with. So I finally asked God to let me see what's wrong with me. And he allowed me to see that I resented my mother, who had tried to turn me away from my father. And so I had believed into the lie of Jesse Jackson and all those people. And I went and forgave, my whole world changed.
Wow.
I was no longer a Democrat. And I read the platform for the first time of the Democratic Party. And then I read the platform of the Republican Party.
Totally
and the
different.
Democratic Party was anti-God, anti-family, anti-military, they're really anti-black too. They don't like black people.
Nope.
They just use blacks.
Yep, for votes.
And then I read the Republican Party, they were about God, country, freedom, independence. And I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be a Republican. So that's why I switched.
Wow.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
Amazing. Were you guys, are you guys conservative or liberal?
Conservative.
Were you Democrats at one time?
We were.
And then what happened?
When we started looking at videos, I think it all started when we started researching slavery. And we started seeing the truth behind that. And all the details that black people aren't
It was
told.
the Democrats who owned the slave and carried on like that.
Absolutely.
And how it was a world,
And it was
you know, a world trade, a commodity of how it was the lifestyle for the world to exist. So it was a form of industrialization for every single country. So every culture has been enslaved. Asian people, a small amount, but Asian, Africans, Iranian, I mean, every race has been enslaved because that's how that country was developed.
As a matter of fact, in Africa, the blacks enslaved other blacks in Africa.
They did, and they treated them the worst.
Right.
Yep.
It was horrible.
And they used them as money. If they needed to buy a cow, they sold a black to another black to get a cow. What? No.
Yep.
But they don't want us to know about that because they want to control the black.
Exactly. And they make you want to think like, okay, chattel was only here. No. Chattel was not just chattel. The chattel ideology didn't come from America.
That's right.
The Arabs had that. They were doing it worse.
It was the Arabs who bought the blacks from the other blacks in Africa and sold them around the world.
Yep.
What the? And they want to blame that on the white man.
Yep.
What the?
Right. But when we learned this information, we were like, wow.
Light bulb.
Oh my gosh.
Light bulb.
That's right.
That was a light bulb moment.
Did y'all see Uncle Tom too?
I saw one. We saw one. We haven't seen
You
two.
need to see two.
Okay.
What's your opinion of the civil rights movement?
That it was just a rah-rah.
Meaning
And
what?
it was, how much of black did it help? I mean, you came through that era, so you got a different point of view because you were there versus us looking at it.
Absolutely.
You know, so
I feel like it was relative for the time because it appeared, or what was shown is that by them sticking together nonviolently, they were able to penetrate things over time because they stood together. Or on the flip side, did it appear to be that? You know, was it that it looked like as they were gathering that things were shifting, but, you know, it later came that they realized that it was unjust, so maybe they wanted to change laws. But I still feel like, you know, to a degree it was relative. They made some changes
The worst
early
thing
on.
that ever happened to the blacks, other than abortion, was the civil rights movement.
Really?
It was a socialist, communist movement. And Jesse Jackson and all those people, Martin Luther King, they just wanted to take control over the blacks. And they used the bus thing and that, pretend like it was all, because prior to that, the bus deal was no big deal. You know, they saw that, but it wasn't a big deal. Blacks were working, they were independent. There were black bus owner companies, right? They couldn't, as a matter of fact, because they couldn't ride the white bus in the front, whatever, black businesses opened up their own buses.
Okay.
You know, but they didn't want that. They wanted to control the blacks so that they could gain power and wealth. It was about socialism.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, the older blacks would tell us, don't be a part of that mess.
really,
Don't get involved with that. They knew it was a setup.
Wow.
And then Jesse Jackson, they set themselves up as the leaders of the black, and to this day, they're leading the blacks right to hell.
So what about the burning up of Black Wall Street then?
Did they tell you that was between a black family and a white family that had a dispute? And they got angry?
No.
You need to watch Uncle Tom too.
Okay.
It explains it so well.
Okay.
And did you know that once they burned it down, once they destroyed it, whatever happened, that the blacks rebuilt it? They rebuilt Wall Street.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They make it seem like once it was burned down, it died.
Yeah.
They call it a terrorist attack and all that. They rebuilt Black Wall Street because blacks then had a different mentality. If those blacks were around today to tell you what really happened, it would be nothing like what you've been told.
Wow.
It would be nothing. And they got proof of that in the film.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not just making it up.
And I think, you know, when we saw Uncle Tom 1, the first Uncle Tom, and are we good on time? I don't want to rush it through. I don't rush
go
it through.
ahead.
But I saw him. But that was one of the reasons why we switched to the Conservative Party from Uncle Tom. Between the study of that and then when we saw Uncle Tom 1,
Yeah.
and when you were explaining, and we saw Officer Tatum, and we saw the explanation of from the difference of the Democrat to the Republican, we were like, well, we definitely not Democrats.
And real quick, my mom was in 2020. She was already there, and all of us, my brothers, you know, other people were totally didn't even see it, and she was like Trump, 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 and
We were like,
everybody
"This
was
lady
like,
crazy."
and she was loud about it. I mean, even the representative come to the door, you could see it through the ring, going off with them about
The ring alarm.
yes, going, you know, about being Republican. And we were like, man, she is crazy. What is this going on? But she was
She's
trying to
old
get
school.
us
She
to
know the
see.
truth.
She was
Yeah.
trying to get us to see, but we weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Trump, the older blacks like Trump because he's from the old school. They know what that is like.
Yeah.
And so it's not about the color thing, it's about the character of the man.
That's right.
And they like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to blow you. Once you all see Uncle Trump too, it's going to bring you all the way home.
Oh,
Okay.
We got to watch that.
It's
Yeah.
going to bring you all the way home.
Got
Okay.
to watch that.
Because it's nothing but the truth and the facts to prove it and everything.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's amazing.